Hey everyone, welcome back. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about what the best foundations are for mature women. And I'm going to be doing a complete review each week based on a different foundation. This week happens to be the Armani Luminous Silk. We're going to be basing these foundations on the 7-point foundation format, which number one is skin prep. What skincare did we use? What SPF did we use? And just basically how the skin was prepped prior to putting on the foundation. Then we're going to talk about primer pairing, where I applied the primer and why. Number 3 is the application method. Brush, sponge, fingers, or just a combination of those. And we're going to be doing thin layers versus full coverage. And number 4, the finish on mature skin. Glowy, satin, natural, luminous, matte, how it looks around texture, pores, and fine lines. Coverage and buildability. Light, medium, or full coverage. Can it build without looking too heavy? A wear test. I'm going to check in after several hours and check on the foundation just to see how it looks. Did it separate? Did it crease? Did it oxidize? Did it settle or did it stay fresh looking? And number 7, who this foundation is best for and who should skip it. Dry skin, combo skin, textured skin, oily skin, and my honest recommendations on who would love this foundation. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. So for this particular foundation, I went in with my Caram MD. I went in using the trifecta system, right? I washed my face, I went in with the vitamin C, and then I went in with the moisturizer. I let each individual layer settle into the skin first before I added the next. I finished it off with my Super Goop. This is the Play Face number 50 SPF. And then what you see on my skin now is I have these patches on my under eye, and that's just gonna give my under eye a level of hydration. Because when we do put the foundation on, if it kind of creeps up there, we don't want it settling into any dryness that you might have underneath your eye. And believe me, the more you moisturize your skin, the better the foundation is gonna look. And then we can't forget our lips. And I went in there and I prepped my lips with the One Skin. This is the peptide balm that they have, and I just put that all over my lips. All right, so we're gonna start off with the Armani Luminous Silk, and this retails, starts at $45 for the smaller bottle like this one here, and it goes up to $72. So it definitely is a luxury foundation, but if you're looking for a beautiful luminous satin type finish, this is a beautiful foundation. Applying it with the 109 brush from BK Beauty, which is a foundation brush. I have my eye makeup on, but I don't have anything on my face. Okay, my skin has a tendency to be dry, but what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna use a hydrating glow primer on one side of my face, and then on the other side of my face, I'm gonna be going in and using a mattifying primer. These are both from Pixi. You'll be able to see how this foundation plays up against 2 completely different primers. One that's hydrating and one that's for somebody who has very oily skin. One that's for a glowy primer and the other one is for a pore minimizing primer. So I'm going in with a little tiny bit, and this is the pore minimizing primer. And I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do, I have large pores here, I have pores here, and I have pores on my chin. And I'm getting very vulnerable here because you're really gonna see my very imperfect skin. This is the only way to see how these products work. Okay, so that's the Flawless Poreless Primer from Pixi. Next, we're gonna go in with the Flawless Beauty Primer, the Hydrating Glow Primer from Pixi. Again, we're just gonna use a little tiny bit. When you go in with your primer and your foundation, use less than you think you need. You don't need to go in there with a whole bunch of primer before you go in there with your foundation, because what it's gonna do is it's just gonna end up pilling on your face, and then if it does get hot or humid, what happens is it just kind of settles and starts to look cakey. Less is always more. All right, you can already see how this is giving my skin a glow. You can see I'm not going all over. I'm just putting it where I want like the glow to be, and just let that set in for a few minutes. And I'm going to take a half a pump. We don't need a full pump, just about that much. Swirl it around in there completely. And I'm gonna start here and bring it down, come over here, and I'm gonna bring it down the center of my nose here. Now you can see how nicely this glides across my skin. Okay, I'm going here. Then I'm gonna take it going upward here. And I'm gonna work from the center of my face upward. Then what I'll do is I'll start blending this going up and outward. I stay away from, I go a little bit in here, but I try not to get too heavy in the areas where I have a lot of fine lines, vertical lines and texture, and I have a droopy mouth. So I don't go in there with too much foundation because I'll be sure to settle into those areas, and then by midday it'll just be all collected there, and we want to avoid that. So there you can see, this is the side that has the matte formula on it. Then this is the side with the glowy. You can see it's a very subtle sheen. It's not too heavy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna build up the other side, okay? This is the side with the matte side on there. And I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna go with a little bit heavier coverage just to see how that looks by the end of the day. And I'm probably gonna take like 1/4 of a pump and go back in there and see how that looks. Now the other side, I'm just gonna leave that just as it is. And bring that upward. See what that looks like compared to this side, where you see a little bit more of my imperfections. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back in later and we're gonna check in on how this looks. So, I'm gonna finish up by going in there with this concealer from Mimetics, and I'm gonna use that under my eye. And it's very hydrating, and it really doesn't look like you have anything on your under eye. I just finished it off with this Pixie blush. And then I went in and I'm using this Topology lip oil on my lip. And I'm gonna finish it off by using this setting spray from Patrick Starr. This is the 1 size. Okay, I'll be back in a few hours and we can kind of go over everything to see how it held up throughout this day. So I'm back for my final check-in, and it's been several hours since I applied this foundation. And what I hope you gain most out of this video is to realize that your skin prep is so important prior to putting on a foundation, because both of these primers that I used on my skin did not work. Flawless Poreless Primer here from Pixie, like, it just left my skin feeling so dry that it was just way too drying for my skin. If you have oily skin though and large pores, this would be a great fit because it really just kind of goes in there and sucks up any moisture or oil that's on the skin, which is why it's not a good fit for mine. And also the Flawless Beauty Primer, the Glow Primer, was also not a good fit because what this did was it highlighted any texture that I have on my face. And in a second, I'm gonna show you. My best bet always for my mature skin is to go in there with hydration. Hydration on top of hydration. I can promise you if you do that with dry skin, your foundation will look healthy and glowing throughout the day without it clinging onto a bunch of dry patches. Typically, this is what I use, is the Bobbi Brown Face Base. This is one of my favorite primers for mature dry skin. This is the side that we did the medium coverage. This is the side where we did the very light coverage. So I'm gonna bring you in and you can see around my nose area how it settled into areas there. In my label fold here, it settled into areas there. I usually avoid putting any foundation around my mouth area because I have a lot of fine lines and I have vertical lines and I have a lot of texture, and I also have frown lines here. So for me to go in there with any type of foundation is a nightmare. All right, so that's the side here. Now let's go over and check the other side. And this is the side where I use very light layers. And I actually like this so much better. Even though the coverage isn't there, I don't care about that. I'm not looking for perfect. I just want to look like I'm healthy and not tired. And I feel like when I get too heavy, the foundation makes me look very tired and old. You can see the coverage is there. You know, it's more sheared out, so it's not settling into any of those dry patches that I have on my skin from the Trenton Owen. But on my nose, you can see it just showed up the texture more with that particular primer. So, and I know it works really well with a hydrating primer because that's how I typically wear it. So let's talk about who this foundation would be a good fit for and who it would not be a good fit for. So if you have very oily skin, this would not be a good foundation for you. If you like completely perfected skin, again, this is not good. If you don't enjoy a radiant finish or anything that looks satin, if you need a foundation that's gonna control oil all day, this would not be a good fit. If you have completely acne prone skin and you prefer a complete coverage foundation, this would not be a good fit. I would describe this foundation best as being a radiant, it's satin-like finish, and if you like something that's very natural looking. For mature skin, I think this works best if you have normal to dry or combination skin. It certainly doesn't have a tendency to look heavy at the end of the day. If you are interested in purchasing this foundation, I think your best bet is to make sure your skin prep is right, that you use the right primer that's addressing any skin concerns that you personally have. And don't forget to subscribe because next week I'm going to be reviewing the Versed. This is a skin tint serum formula with an SPF of 40, and it's one that I'm really gravitating towards this year. So you don't want to miss that.